20, they didn't end up going to that.
It's got to be more than that. We're going to find a further position.
And hello and welcome back. This is Mark S. King with My Fabulous Disease, bringing you a live stream final session of the HIV is Not a Crime Training Academy here at Indiana University, sponsored by the SERO Project and Positive Women's Network. We are here with the founder of SERO Project, Chant, who for many people here, of course, believe you were the catalyst that began so much of the movement in the United States. It's nice that we're bookending our coverage, our live stream coverage, speaking to you at the opening plenary and now at the end. And I'd love to hear your thoughts of how you think things have gone.
I think it's been great. I mean, this kind of event is the real, building blocks of a movement when we bring individuals from a grassroots level who have HIV, who are doing the work on the front lines together to get specific training in advocacy, but also to be with each other and the peer-to-peer work, the inspiration, the empowerment that comes out of this that people find in themselves. The sessions with the states were amazing, with each state coming up with their own delegation plan that they'll report back on 2 years from now at the next HIV is Not a Crime.
And the strategies within these states are as individual as the states themselves. Everybody's got kind of a different take on how they want to change these laws.
Right. Well, that's sort of a fundamental principle of SERO. We don't tell them what they need to be doing, right? We help facilitate bringing the people within the state together so they can work as a collective and address the HIV stigma, discrimination, and criminalization issues in their state within their political context, within their cultural context. And some states are very ambitious and have a really sort of fleshed out program. Others are at baby steps, but we support them all along the way.
Well, as someone who's watched this happen for a lot of years now, I know you're a proud papa right now to see what has happened and how these activists have taken the lead themselves, primarily people living with HIV.
Yeah. No, it's really amazing. From Grinnell at the end of that, somebody from the stage, the first HIV is Not a Crime conference in 2014, said, okay, which state is going to be the next to reform their statutes? And Barb Cardell and Carrie Hartel from Colorado raised their hand and said they're going to. And dang it, they did it. 2016, Kevin Lish from Idaho said we're going to get a movement going. He came back this year with not only a whole team, but also a member of their state legislature who's been here the entire week learning about this issue to be able to address it within their legislature, which is, of course, very conservative. We also had Representative John Hoadley from Michigan here, who has been working on criminalization since before he got elected to the legislature. So there's just so much going on, such an amazing group here. I'm feeling pretty good right now. And I feel the presence of Michael Callan and Vito Russo and all sorts of people from those early years. This is the movement they envisioned.
Chant, of course, is referring to legendary initial AIDS activists, people living with AIDS, who were behind the crafting of the Denver Principles, which hangs heavy among this crowd and its principles. So we're going to get to the plenary session now. Nana Devi from Positive Women's Network was just asking the crowd who will be next, which state will be next, and all sorts of hands went up. So let's take it to that live stream for the rest of our closing session of HIV is Not a Crime.
Living with
Thanks
HIV
for watching.
for more than 24 years. So it didn't even ever dawn on me in 1993 that I would not do this work. I was living and teaching full-time in Philadelphia and found the most amazing activist people, the groups that really, I think, are the reason that maybe I'm still alive and thriving. I don't live in Philadelphia anymore. I live closer to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I have to say, I told Marco already this even a couple nights ago, I'm lonely because I'm not near a lot of people all the time that are infused with all this research that's empowering, all this conversation with beautiful people that's empowering, all the people that are actually out among people strategizing. And so I chose to be a rapporteur for yesterday and take the pulse of things, and I got to talk to amazing people about how you felt about your work and how you were empowered by others. So here's what I wrote. We started the day in a really beautiful fashion with using language of liberation, using language and saying things like Can we all find it with each other to dismantle racist institutions? We started with Kenyon Farrow on this end and Max Boykin on the other end, and just the beauty of everybody in between led me to think that I need to talk to Jason McCarty first. Do you know why? Yesterday was election day in a couple places, not just Mississippi and California, but you, us, me, we're this powerful voting bloc. Our voices matter so much. So all this is tied together. Intersectionality is such a huge component of what we do. And if we divorce that, if we think, I'm a person living with HIV, but am I a political entity? You bet you are. Your voice matters so much. So I wrote about that. I wanted to share that. So we learned about, as white allies, as people draped, cloaked in white privilege. My white privilege has taught me, has gotten me to places, has helped me to know the things I know, but I haven't lived that experience. So as a person living in white privilege, yesterday gave me such a beautiful time, a time to be pensive and think, you know what? Me, Susan Mull, I do talk too much. I do step in spaces too much and take up space where ancestors of mine have colonized people and told people how to think and told people how to live their lives, and that's not okay. That's not okay. So the conversations were so powerful. So we talked about things from voting, being a voting bloc, being powerful, sharing your voice, dismantling racist institutions. And then I caught up with Eric Paulk. And I don't know if Eric, if you're here, wave if you are. I had this amazing conversation. You know, he was on the panel for U equals U the day before. And we caught up yesterday. And we talked about some of the same themes. We talked about all this intersectionality. And out of the blue, we both said, we have to read these books about young men in the South, the Deep South, our epidemic in the Deep South. Do you know who Jesmyn Ward is? Men we reaped. So we talked about books. We talked about learning more about how to take what we know as HIV, as activists and people who are fighting against criminalization. We talked about literature. That was part of yesterday. We had a white affinity group meeting again, which really is something that I hope that we continue in our hometowns, in our own heads, in our own spaces, in our own universities. People wanted to talk about, I felt people wanted to talk about growth, challenge, hope, and progress, and how we can pull back, take up less space, and better support our peers who are people of color. Let's do that. We can do that. We need to learn that. You people are so beautiful. I'm going to keep saying that. I know that people from Mexico and Colombia are still here. I kept writing down these words: strategic litigation, strategic litigation. I learned these beautiful things from people who came here to be with us to share that. I love that so much. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias. So much. That was so beautiful. That was such a significant part, and that you can see how that tied into the theme of yesterday as well. So to wind way back to the beginning, in my heart, I kept hearing these things that me, Susan Mull, am I doing this work enough as a person cloaked in white privilege? Am I learning enough? And all of a sudden, the spirit of Charles Stevens was invoked, and on the screen, Charles was here. So if you were presenting and you saw me run out the aisle, it's because Charles is my friend, and I thought I have to speak to Charles. So we connected, and I said, Charles Stevens, you know where we are. We miss you. You're not here. Can you give us words that'll help us float out and float home? Oh, I have it. I have to read this to you word for word. So I'm feeling so blessed by this. You're going to love this. I love this man so much. This genius has given his life, I feel, to us in many of the things he does. So the counter-narrative project, if you have never read how Charles writes, how he guides us, how he helps us write, jump in. Counter-narrative project. Here goes. This is Charles, and he said I could quote this word for word. You have been central to our conversation, you beautiful people. This morning at HIV is not, oh, this is me. Charles, you have been central to our conversation this morning at HIV is not a crime. If you could make one statement that would empower us all in this work, what would you say? And Charles said this: even in these stunningly difficult times, as we stand at this historic moment facing adversaries that would rather see us dead than free, and a political climate attempting to normalize our suffering and subjugation, I, Charles Stevens, am comforted, if not inspired, by the magic and beauty and power of our great movement. That's part of it. Also know that I, and this is Charles Stevens, am able to be strong because I have this incredible community standing with me, and I want you to know that you can be strong because I stand with you too. I love you.
Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you so much. Wasn't that powerful? Wow. Thank you. And thanks for bringing Charles Stevens into the room. For those who don't know Charles, he's done a lot of work, and the Counter Narrative Project has done a lot of work in collaboration with CHLP and SERO and some other folks around the Michael Johnson case in particular, and uplifting how how mass incarceration and HIV criminalization, particularly of Black bodies, Black queer bodies, are connected, and so. That work is so important, and we should never forget those who are still inside, right? And hold them with us and commit to work with them. So thank you for bringing Charles into the room. Also, yes, elections. We have 5 months, y'all. We have 5 months to organize, and organize all the way down our ballot. And Susan Mull said we are a powerful voting bloc, and that is so true. There are 1.1 million people living with HIV in this country, and we are connected to so many others. Can you imagine the power of that vote? The power of that vote. Yes, and it's not just about the top of the ballot, right? Many local races swing by a handful of votes. If you can turn out 100, 200 voters, make sure they're registered in time, make sure they go vote, make sure they know how to vote. Make sure we have to be informed about what is on our ballot. And so that's something that, PWN chapters are definitely working on, looking at down ballot races, especially district attorney, of course Congress, but like lots of other races as well. We need to know exactly where these folks stand. And so right now they're doing candidate forums. You can be out there in the community. Connect with us if you want to get more involved in election work. That is so critical. Marco raised the issue of AIDS 2020, and I wanted to just talk about that for a second before we move on to our next segment. So the issue of the International AIDS Conference coming to the United States in 2020, that is what has been proposed, right? They are proposing to bring an international conference on the HIV epidemic to a country that people cannot enter safely, right? We have travel restrictions on sex workers. People who do sex work literally cannot enter the country. They cannot get visas to enter the US. People who use drugs cannot enter the country to get into the US. We have this public charge rule that is probably coming out sometime before July. Public charge means, Marco mentioned it briefly yesterday, it basically means that if you are trying to enter the country, or if you are already in the country as an immigrant, if it is determined that you could become a burden on the US, then you could be fined and or deported, okay? So literally that is dangerous. What could be possible for people living with HIV in 2020? We don't know if it will be safe to come here. We really don't know. If we think it's bad now, imagine how much worse it's gonna be in 2 years, right? So, and it's not just those things. The U.S. is a place that has a history of human rights violations. We just recently had, the conference is supposed to come in San Francisco. A few weeks ago, a human rights activist from the Philippines, Jerome Eba, was detained for 28 hours at the San Francisco airport and not allowed to enter the United States. 28 hours he was interrogated. Because he was here to talk about the repressive Duterte regime. They did not allow him to enter the country. What do you think they're going to do to our folks when they try to enter the U.S.? We can't let this happen. We cannot let this conference come to the United States. It's an international conference. It's to be in solidarity with the international community. This conference must be removed until our policies are changed. And when it does come back, it should be in the U.S. South, not in San Francisco. Because that's where our epidemic is. That is where the burden of our epidemic is today. That is where half of women living with HIV in the US are in the Deep South. So this is an issue of criminalization, because these are people who are criminalized and policed, right? It's not even safe for people to move around the US. It's definitely not safe to enter. So with that, we're going to hear about your next steps and your plans. And so if you are doing the report back from your state, if you can if you're able to move towards the mics, that would be great. If you're not, raise your hand and we will bring a mic to you. Either way is totally cool. Okay, we're gonna be running both mics. Never mind, stay seated, stay where you are. We have mic runners. So, if you're doing your state report backs, we want to hear from you, and we want to hear from you quickly. And we want to hear what is the one thing that... I have the mic. I'm going to give it back to you. I'll give it back to you. Yeah. So we just want to hear one goal you want to achieve. What is the most exciting goal you want to achieve? And we're going to keep this moving quickly.
My name is Debbie, and I'm from Wisconsin. I'm the only one from Wisconsin, therefore, it is just me. So when I came here to learn as much as I could so that I could make slide presentations and take them back to everyone that I know with HIV in the communities that I work on and show them what I have learned. And that there was nothing else I could do, because I thought that Wisconsin was a state with no major rules, that we didn't have anything. And come to find out last night, there's work I can do. Yay! So just to make a commitment to get it done, and I won't be invisible anymore, and trying to find someone else to help me and to do the research to find out what needs to be fixed and who's suffering because of it is my first goals.
My name's Mark. I'm from Tennessee. Our big goal for right now is to introduce the modernization of HIV within the laws within Tennessee. We have some great allies that have signed on. We have wonderful people and wonderful energy. So that's our big focus right now, is just to introduce it and to, as we heard earlier, we're going to put our foot in the door, and we're going to get our fat ass in the door, and they're not going to let us go away.
My name is Malcolm Reed. I represent Georgia. Okay. Our goal is to pass an omnibus bill that we're working on actually right now, which includes decriminalization of HIV, and we're going to pass that in the 2019 session. In order to do this, we have put together a coalition of the Georgia HIV Justice Coalition, which is a statewide coalition whose members include Georgia Equality, Thrive SS, Counter Narrative Project, Sister Love, and SNAPCO, and some others. So with those heavy hitters, we're going to get this done. Review and finalize the legislative language and that will be driven by people living with HIV, organize and create caucuses among stakeholders, especially people living with HIV, black, gay, and bisexual men and trans women. Utilize the Williams Institute data to craft the audience, audience-specific messages in order to improve the polling. And then we're going to lobby, lobby, lobby until we get this passed. Oh, and by the way, we are going to accomplish one more thing. We are going to elect the first black female governor in the country.
Awesome. We have a couple states up here, actually, so we're going to go ahead and hear from them.
I'm going to be quick. I'm Aline from Louisiana, and we set it up with the workshop, with the worksheets. We had 30, 60-day, and 90-day goals, so I'm going to go over them real quick. I talk pretty fast. Louisiana is
One goal.
One goal, okay.
The most important one.
Our most important goal is our coalition agreed that we're going to modernize the law. To do this, we're going to have 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day goals, which we're probably going to have a website up pretty quick. So those goals will be set up on that. But yeah, we're gonna modernize the law. That's what our main goal is.
Yes. Awesome. Let's hear from Indiana.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Y'all wore me out last night.
You wore us out.
For Indiana, we're doing a lot of stuff right now. So our goals right now is to get our legislators to understand Indiana HIV laws is so harsh. So what we're going to do is to create professional palm cards and also create short video about Indiana laws. Indiana HIV laws to our legislators so they can see and understand why these laws are so important to reform and repeal against the people living with HIV in Indiana. Also, to educate our people who are on our listserv, to give them information that is very important to know that Indiana laws is very harsh to people living with HIV, living in Indiana, for everyone. Definitely for women who are living with HIV in Indiana, because it is very harsh for them, and also people of color that live with HIV in Indiana as well. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Greg Cody from Ohio, and Ohio. Ohio is formulating a plan into decriminalization of HIV. Previous attempts lacked a statewide commitment and an organized action plan. Utilizing a diverse group of individuals as well as experts in the field of law and care, and forming an approach, oh my God, my thing went off, which accounts for social impacts, we are formulating a steering committee comprised of individuals living with HIV diagnoses, then forming working committees of specific areas of needs, dividing the work among committee members. These committees will be formed based on geographic locations within a state. This approach will help maintain a clear, concise, timely course of action.
Reginald Brown, Vocal New York. Thanks to Davina and Brian Jones, we're going to make sure that Nushan Williams is released from civil confinement. Even though New York State does not have specific laws, David Plunkett was a victim, and now Nushan is, and we're going to make sure that he gets out of civil confinement.
Hi everyone, my name is Sophie and I'm a trans Lebanese Arab immigrant living with HIV, and I represent California.
Yes.
So when we win, we celebrate. So celebrating the last 239 bill victory and reconvening the coalition that worked for that bill so we can ask the right questions on how to move forward, what that means for folks who are already have been criminalized or incarcerated. How does expungement look going forward? And also, what does it look like for other folks who aren't at risk were at risk of criminalization?
So, hi everybody. I'm Caroline Sandy from Boston, Massachusetts. So what I'm going to do is I'll hold a meeting with the statewide CAB, Consumer Advisory Board, and see how best we can come up with the other stakeholders and look at the laws in Massachusetts and see how best we can review them, because apparently I've learned from this session that Massachusetts is actually not on the HIV, is not a crime. So that will be my first major priority. And I'm only going to focus on that goal so that I'm not bombarded with too much work. Thank you. And it's been a pleasure to be here.
I'm Latunja from Arkansas. So we are just starting our coalition. What we're going to do is work, because Arkansas is so rural, to start identifying people outside of the central Arkansas area so that we can have inclusivity of everyone across the state. And not only that, but start to seek out other transgender and gay, other members of the LGBTQ community so that we can have representation from all, and also our sex workers.
Hi. Hello. Hello, I'm Shanika, and I'm representing Michigan. So, thank you for inviting me and accepting me here. This was my first time attending this conference, which I am elated to be here. And I was actually able to meet one of our legislative champions, even though he's not in my district, but it's still good to have somebody in Michigan's legislature for HIV criminalization. And with that said, we're going to build momentum in the legislature through grassroots advocacy, through the PWN state chapter. And we're going to actually try to go for modernization, but if not, go for the prosecutorial practice, because our Michigan is a conservative state, and I think that would be the best way for us to go to build that momentum going forth set here. So I make my commitment to at least engage all my networks of people living with HIV, in particular women and trans experience, in particular Black and brown bodies in urban and in rural communities, specifically since gentrification is taking place in Detroit. So it's a whole load, but I am looking forward to the load.
Thank you. I'm Wahida Shabazz, L representing Pennsylvania. We don't have HIV-specific laws in our state, but we do have a committee that's been working for the last 3 years to avert HIV criminalization. We're going to continue to do that, and we're going to be doing bill tracking and stuff like that. What we're going to do to try to help other folks out is we have a progressive district attorney just got elected in Philadelphia. We're planning on meeting with him and having him make some statements and putting his statements out across the country to encourage other district attorneys and to encourage other legislators that HIV criminalization is something that needs to be repealed, reformed, modernized. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Deborah. I'm from Alabama, and again, since we don't have any HIV-specific laws, we will continue to educate our communities on the stigma surrounding, because it's very bad there in the South. Continue to educate communities on the stigma surrounding HIV and continue advocating for people living with HIV.
In Mexico, we are going to map each and every state that still have these criminalizing laws to find the accurate actors to do the lobbying to reform each and every one of these laws in every state. One by one, we will prevail. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Jason McCarty from Mississippi. Yvonne and I met yesterday, and we brought Robin Webb conferencing, so I'm happy to bring him into the room. But we acknowledge that we have to start at step one, and so we're going to create a task force when we get back home. So we have to start at the beginning, and we acknowledge that. And then we're going to educate, and I guarantee in 2020, we'll have something to celebrate about.
Hello, everyone. Am I on? Brandon Atkins from Idaho.
we're happy to share with everyone that we are working very strongly to get our messaging appropriate to tailored legislature as we look to introduce bills within the 19 or 20 legislative session. We're very excited about that, and with our representative here with us, who is a very strong advocate, we are very happy that we are going to see that. One of the things that I think that is important for us to mention is that we are really interested in getting our wording completed, the draft reviewed, and to get that finalized so that we can get that pushed forward and know exactly what we're going to be working with. And we want to make sure that our goal really ultimately is that 70 years from now, people living with HIV in Idaho will still have services that are available to them, and that we will have a lifelong commitment to people living with HIV.
Hi everybody, Brian Manalga from Washington. What our main goal is coalition building. When we get back to Washington State, there's another group working on HIV criminalization, and our ultimate goal from coalition building is to influence our Department of Health, which has already drafted revisions to our state law on HIV criminalization that we find unacceptable. They're rolling HIV into a broader category called STIs of public health significance, and yet keeping the felony. So potentially, not only could HIV be criminalized under felony charges, but other STIs as well. So unacceptable. We want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So our coalition plans to influence the Department of Health, and if that doesn't work, we'll take matters into our own hands. So that's Washington.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christian Castro from Illinois. Glad to be here. I want to echo the sentiment from the folks from Michigan. My first time here, and I'm really energized for this. There already has been movement in Illinois prior to HINAC, but I think we're going to re-energize the folks back in Illinois. We already have a meeting scheduled for Monday, and really exciting things are we really got to focus on agreeing on a mission statement and guiding principles. Really focus on what we're going to, because it's going to drive us forward. And based on that, we're going to build a coalition structure and steering committee. So this train has left the station.
Hi, everybody. My name's Connie from Nevada. Thank you so much for having me here. This is my first HINAC, and it was amazing. We already have our steering committee formed. We are going to begin meeting. I've been working on forming alliances with coalitions. So my first goal is to take home the pictures that the hundreds of pictures I've taken of the slides and turn them into my own PowerPoint to take to our first meeting, to educate, engage, and empower my own community so that they know how to do the things that you guys have taught me over the last few days. So, so Nevada can hit the ground running. Oh, and one last thing. We actually have a senator signed on, Senator Yavana Kinsella. She came to my women's group and heard my elevator speech about criminalization, and she signed on her support. So we have a senator.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alan Murray from Texas, and we're going to be meeting with actually Lionel, and I talked about this last night, and something I hadn't thought of, so I'll be doing it in Houston also. But in Dallas, they're going to be going to meet with the local DAs and police chiefs to talk to about criminalization and the effects of it and that sort of thing. We don't have a specific HIV law in Texas, but we do have other laws that could be enhanced and applied. And if we can meet with the DAs and explain to them what that would entail and the harmful effects of that, I think that would be a really good thing. And then a longer-term goal, we have just recently started a statewide network, TLHIV, and we're working on that, getting that together, and really starting to see it hit the road, which is really pretty cool. It's been a lot of work, and to see it finally come to fruition is a really cool thing.
Well, hi. Our fellows from Colombia had to go, but they left their job here. So I'm going to tell you that they will keep on preparing their arguments for this constitutionality action that they're going to make. So they are looking for more information, for more medical and juridical information, and I think they have taken too much notes from here in order to prepare this action that we hope it can be discussed during this year or maybe next year.
Hi everyone, Kamaria from Florida. We are hitting the reset button as we're losing our bill sponsor, our legislative champion. But because he terms out, we're hoping that we can make him an advocate and give us more insight and more intel and let him be more frank with us on how to move forward. Our short-term goal is our strategic planning meeting that we have this Monday. So I will be getting no sleep, but that's all right. And I'll be taking back the energy with me and continuing to help build the energy of recruiting more advocates into our coalition that we're trying to restructure. So I'm really grateful for the Florida advocates that were able to come to this conference and help me do that. So.
Hi, my name is Dan Burkholder from Missouri. We're going to be looking at bringing in new coalition members in other areas, sex workers, harm reduction, certain access folks, reproductive justice folk, and preparing for if we're going to decide to do interim committee hearings, since we had 2 bills that were introduced this last session, and do education and bring more folk into our fold. And the last piece related to that is I was going to do one day. Oh, we're going to work on our guiding principles, particularly since we're going to be bringing in new coalition members to make sure that we are all on the same page.
Have we heard from all the states and countries? Amazing. Wow. Wow. This is a room of folks that can get stuff done. And we know that you all are connected to many more people back home. And yeah, this room of folks is going to make stuff happen. I know that when we convene again in 2020, we're going to be hearing about a lot of progress and a lot of victories. And it's really exciting to hear how intersectional the focus is. I think we've all been real clear while we're here that none of us are free until all of us are free, right? Our movements are connected, our struggles are connected, our fates are linked, they are intertwined. And so the next, as we work to change these HIV specific laws, we also need to be working to decriminalize sex work, and hand in hand with decriminalizing drug use and decriminalizing bodies and people and movement and labor and immigration status of all forms.
Yeah, just really quick, Puerto Rico also has a plan. They're not here, but they wrote the plan, and you can figure it out by connecting with Tammy. But they have a written plan on criminalization.
Thank you so much for that. So we're going to hear a brief report from Jacob, some reflections from young people at HIV is Not a Crime.
So some of us young people are doing the work and working with our elders to reform some laws and working on committees and steering committees and coalitions. I think it was Monday, we were having a conversation out in the courtyard, and our biggest concern was our biggest question is I asked the question, how do young people and our older counterparts work together and listen together? Some of the people here advised me and advised Tiffany that we have to listen to each other and work together. One part is to have a space where our older counterparts tell their stories, tell what they had to go through to where they are now, so we can go through the same, where we can guide us to where we can go, where we don't have to face the same adversities that you guys did. As well, work together to where we are on the same page. As well, give us a space to where young people have a space to where we can work together, and then the older people work together and have a space where they can work together. And when they come together, it won't be a clash. As well, we should take each generation together to the next point, because when these laws were made, they were made out of a point where there was no science. There was no science behind it. There was no technology behind it and nothing like that. Us young people, we have the technology. We have the science to where we can still guide our older counterparts to where they can understand the science and the technology to where they are not lost in the information stage where we are going to as we go into this 21st century. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. We have, I want to just encourage folks that as you go home, we really urge you to focus, and it sounds like you already are, on strategic alliances, building relationships, building partnerships, because we're going to be very excited to hear back from all of you at HINAC for what you got done, right? So we recorded all of your next steps. And so we're going to be hearing from you next time on the progress that's been made. We have a breaking news update from Chant Strub.
First, a lot of you heard from John Hoadley, the representative from Michigan, that he was hoping there would be a vote today on their criminalization bill coming out of the House Health Policy Committee. That got delayed. So it's a little bit of a disappointment, but it got delayed. It didn't get ended. But the good news is, last night, I just got an email from our friend, after a 10-year effort, the 48th General Assembly of the Organization of the American States adopted a segment on the human rights of LGBTI people. That's been a battle that's been underway for a long time. That's an enormous accomplishment. However, point number 6 of the draft text reads, repeal any law that penalizes not disclosing HIV status, exposure, and transmission.
Yes.
In addition, states should limit the use of the criminal law in cases of intentional transmission of HIV in accordance with international recommendations. And that's from Alfredo Gonzalez, who's been very active in epidemic work in Honduras and elsewhere. So that's really wonderful news.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Stay up here for a second, Sean. Stay up here for a second. So I want to do a few thank yous, and this is the first person I want to thank. Can we? No, it's never enough. Thank you so much to Sean for his vision in creating this space for all of us, in his contributions to the movement. You know, when we brought to him this idea of doing the bully this year, and said, you know, we need to add 50 people for 2 nights, and you know, he was just like, okay, we'll make it happen. We're going to do it. And, you know, we were able to get, he raised the resources to help bring all those folks here so that we could have the first ever Black United Leadership Institute. Thank you so much. I think that kind of allyship and modeling how to ensure equitable access and really direct resources to where they should be is exactly the kind of leadership we need in this movement right now. Thank you for that. I also want to thank the SERO staff, Tammy Hott in particular, for the incredible work she has done in organizing this conference and making sure everything flows smoothly. I know you're there because you're working, Tammy, but come on up here and feel the love from this room. Can I have the other SERO staff come up here if you are in the room as well? Kamaria, Robert, come on up here. Come on up here. We are so appreciative of all of you for your work, Ken. Let's give these folks the love they deserve to feel. Yes. Where are you at, Robert? Okay. This team has been incredible to work with, and I'm so thankful to them. I also need to shout out my amazing team. Arnita, Rebecca, Jenny, who's off somewhere, Ebony, Wahida. Thank you so much to all the work you have done to pull this together. This has really been a great experience of collaborating and working together. And Cindy Stein, who's not in the room because she's managing things outside the room, and Jenny and all those folks. So we need to bring up. Can we have all our Okay, thanks y'all. Stay up here. We have so many people to thank for this. Carrie Foote. And come on up here, Carrie. And can we get the HIV modernization movement folks up here? And the Brothers United folks up here. You all made this conference what it is. You all made this conference a tremendous success. We could not have done this without you. Everybody who volunteered. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for everything you have done. We love you, we appreciate you. We could not have done this without you. This volunteer team has been like such rock stars, y'all. I can't even tell you. They showed up early in the morning. They were here till late at night from before we even started HINAC, helping us move boxes and unpack things and set up registration and tables and running shifts. And they were like, what do you need? Where do you need us to be? Always with a smile on their face. Thank you so much. We couldn't have done this without you. We really appreciate it. And particularly Carrie Foote, Dr. Carrie Foote, for her leadership on the ground. I keep trying to get Robert. And Carrie's Robert. Awesome. These are the folks it took to make this happen. Thank you so much. I really want to thank our media team. So, these folks have been behind the camera. They often don't get recognized. But we have Nick Feustel, who has been live streaming. Mark King, who has been coordinating live stream, social media engagement. Edwin Bernard from HIV Justice Worldwide and HIV Justice Network. 5,000 people watched our opening session live, y'all. 5,000 people. And those videos are all archived and can be saved. So we are all in this together. We all make this happen together, and it is such a privilege to be in this movement with all of you. I want to also thank our interpreters. Thank you to our interpreters. Yes, thank you so much. And yes, the interpretation was excellent. We have worked with lots of interpreters, and they are not always good at capturing the nuances of the issues. You all did an incredible job. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just need to see what I'm supposed to do. So, I think, can I do the chant? Let's do the chant. We'll close out. Okay, so we are going to close ourselves out with a chant. Where is my sister Wahida? Oh, I'm sorry. Robert is going to say something first. Robert Soto. Are you saying something? No? Long time. I don't know. Never mind.
Okay. I'll say it. Okay, so, So before we leave, and we're going to close with a chant, I want to personally thank everybody for coming, and not just for coming, just for participating. You all were like very, very engaged. And I want to just make acknowledgement that yesterday was Long-Term Survivor Day of HIV. Woo! And we have Jeff Perry here from the Reunion Project, who sent out all kind of press releases and stuff yesterday. He's been working really hard too. So here's our chant. This is a chant from Tupac Shakur's mother, Assata Shakur. She says, we have a duty to fight for our freedom. We have a duty to win. We must always love and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have a duty to fight for our freedom. We have a duty to win. We must always love and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have a duty to fight for our freedom. We have a duty to win. We must always love and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Ashe, Ashe.
If you are on the 1215 shuttle, your bus is here. Thank you all so much. Came in real. We'll see you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mark S. King and Edwin Bernard with the HIV Justice Network, and we are closing things out here at the HIV is Not a Crime Training Academy at Indiana University. And what a few days it has been, Edwin.
Oh my God, yes.
I know, and I want to do coming attractions real quick. Before we lose you, we want to make sure you know that this is not the, obviously, well, it's not the end of the criminalization efforts. There are more things to come and events to come, including something you have on board at the International AIDS Conference coming up in Amsterdam in July. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's right. So it'll be the third Beyond Blame Challenging HIV Criminalization one-day conference that happens always just before the International AIDS Conferences, this time in Amsterdam on Monday, July 23rd. If you're coming to Amsterdam, please come to our conference. If you're not, you'll be able to follow the live stream. If you go and like the HIV Justice Network Facebook page, so all of you on the HIV is Not a Crime Conference Facebook page, come over to the HIV Justice Network Facebook page, like us. There you can find details of the conference, find information about the HIV Justice Network and HIV Justice Worldwide.
That is terrific. And I want to thank everybody involved with this. They've done a lot of things already, so we know that. You got a quick glimpse of our technical director, Nicholas Feustel, a few minutes ago during the thank yous. So I'm glad that he made a surprise appearance, and you know how great a job he has done to make a very small, efficient operation look like $1 million.
And Mark, I just want to thank you for being the most incredible host. You've made, it's been a joy, as always, working with you. And today is your anniversary, your wedding anniversary?
It's my wedding anniversary, yes. So I'm sacrificing so much for my activism. But that's okay. I'll be home tonight. I think all is well.
Well, congratulations to you and Michael.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for joining us for this live stream event. I hope that you're being involved in some way with HIV activism in your own community, and that's probably why you're watching this right now. So we thank you for that. As is so clear from the people here today, activism is life, activism is friendship, activism is joy. Thank you so much for watching our live stream. Bye-bye.
Thank you.